Now back to the Aaron Harber Show.
Welcome back to the show. This is our final segment in part 2 of a special 2-part series with former Congressman Mickey Edwards. So Mickey, what are some ideas about what citizens can do? You and I were talking off camera about the fact, I mean, there's some states, Colorado is one, where citizens can take control of the process if they want.
Yeah, here's the hard part. What your viewers have to get straight in their minds is that they have the power to change this. For one, in 24 states, what happens is that you have a petition, you have the right to have initiative petitions where you just put it on the ballot. You get signatures, you put it on the ballot. That's how California, changed its laws. 24 states allow that. Other states have a referendum situation. If the legislature has done something you don't like, you can then refer it to a vote of the people. So that's one thing. People show up. When I showed up, why do I do this? I was just as partisan as anybody else. Because I didn't know better. I grew up in the system. And I showed up at a town meeting in my district in Oklahoma City. And I was asked, why did you not do this? And I gave the answer that you give. I said, well, I tried to do that. I worked for it, but the Democrats control the legislature out there, in this case, the Congress. I wasn't able to get it done. And somebody stood up and said, I am so damn sick and tired of hearing Democrat this, Republican that. And everybody in the room applauded. And I stopped. And I didn't do that again. Never done it again. If you show up at the town meetings for your governor, for your senator, for your House member, your state legislature, you can change things. If you can say to the people, we're watching what you're doing. And if you're just being a partisan, you're working for your party rather than for us, we're going to vote against you next time. So that's one thing that can be done. But look, there's more. A friend of mine, Bill Bishop, wrote a book a few years ago called The Big Sort. And here's what he found. And it's got to be shocking, I hope, to all of your reviewers, because of the truth of it. When Barack Obama said, there's no red America, there's no blue America, there's just the United States of America, I loved it. It was great. It was wonderful. It was not true. Because so many of us hang out with people who think the way we do. They read what we do. You either read George Will or Paul Krugman. You don't read both. You watch Rush Limbaugh or Keith Olbermann, not both. And don't expose yourself to a serious conversation with or reading of points of views you don't already have. And you can't make a democracy like ours survive with people locked into rigid ideologies and an unwillingness to talk to others. So, I'm not trying to be Jimmy Carter, but to some extent, the government we have today is the result of the people not doing their job of being educated, thinking thoughtfully about the issues that are out there, and trying to create a system that allows them to get past all this party BS and start saying, how do we come together as Americans to solve our common problems?
When you look at leadership today, it seems that it's difficult to be a leader. Do you think that's true or not? That leaders who are, and because you talked about the party structure, if you come out and you're a Democrat and you say, hey, I've got a level with you, we do need to enhance revenue, but to Democrats, spending cuts are necessary too, your own base may evaporate. If you as a Democrat come out and say, I think we need to raise taxes to enhance revenue, your Republican opponent is going to say, no, we don't need to raise taxes. If we cut taxes, we're actually going to raise revenue. If you're a Republican and you're for any kind of tax increase, you're a pariah in the party. If you're for spending cuts, everyone's for you, but on the other hand, then you lose the ability to, again, broaden your base. It seems like it seems so much starker, so much more black and white. How do you move people to the middle?
Because what you have is a system that's driven by the most ideological and the most partisan. So if you want to do those things that you're talking about, you don't just go on TV and say it. What you do is you gather a group of leaders together, community leaders, not party leaders. You get the Chamber of Commerce people and the church people and the people who are active in the YMCA. You get them together and you say, let's have a candid conversation. Here's the situation we're facing. So that you build cover, so that when you go out front and say, this is what we need to do, you got a big power base standing there with you. That's what you do. That's what a real leader does. You know, the other kind that we have too many of is just go give a speech or have an interview and make a pronouncement. And that doesn't work. What has to happen is we have to build a cadre of Americans who are willing to stand together to demand that things be different than they are now.
When you look at people in Congress, in the House and the Senate, what do you think they want?
I think I got to say that may be the best question I've ever been asked. That's a terrific question. I can tell you what they want. They want the freedom to be able, they don't want to be out there having to raise money all the time. They don't want this pressure from the people who say, we're going to knock you off in your primary because we can, because it's a closed primary. They want, the people who I know who are members of Congress are smart. They're smarter than the average citizen. They're well-read. They're good people. And they want the freedom to be able to govern the way they know they can and not get hammered for it. You know, they don't want to be a Dick Lugar really doing good things for America and coming home and being told they sold out.
Is there any groundswell among those elected officials, and I know we're wrapping up, where enough of them could get together and say, you know, we're going to do what we know is best for the country. We know it's unpopular, and we know it may cost us our seats.
I'm working actively in 3 different groups that are working to try to make that happen right now.
And what kind of response do you think you'll get?
We're building a cadre of people who are going to do that. I don't know if you, not promoting my book any more than you're promoting it, but in the blurbs on the back of the book, you know, people like Chuck Hagel and Evan Bayh, you know, are coming out and saying, this is the way we have to do this. Chuck, a Republican, Evan, a Democrat. I think people are starting to, I've been active in the group called No Labels, and they're getting a lot of people signed up.
I don't hear from No Labels anymore. What's happened to No Labels?
They're working actively. There's over 430,000 people have signed up in No Labels. You know, so it's not all public. They're getting working on the Hill. We've got a lot of prominent people doing it. At the Aspen Institute, I've created a bipartisan strategy group to work on promoting civility and bipartisanship. I run the Rodell Public Leadership Program of secretaries of state, state treasurers, mayors of large cities, state legislative leaders, you know, who are really beginning to work in a much more civil and bipartisan way that we're working with. So I believe we're on the cutting edge. 42% of Americans today call themselves independents. The USA Today had an article that said people in this country are fleeing from the political parties, fleeing from the system. And you know, people say, oh, can it happen? My answer is the revolution has already begun.
All right. I want to thank my guest, Mickey Edwards, for joining me today. And don't forget to pick up his book, The Parties versus the People, How to Turn Republicans and Democrats into Americans. Mickey, thanks so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.